Hello, Serendipitous here. This is a bit of a different video, kind of similar to videos I've made that have to do with the Brawlhalla card game, but this time it is for the fan-made Brawlhalla tabletop role-playing game that I've been working on off and on for the past, honestly, several years, a couple of years at the very least. I wanted to share some ideas that I've been having. I think might be kind of cool. I still have a ways to go before I finish my first draft of the game, but I thought I'd share these ideas here. So this has to do with the weapons. So one thing I want to do with the Brawlhalla tabletop role-playing game, which, by the way, if you're not aware, tabletop role-playing game, it's like Dungeons and Dragons, or like Call of Cthulhu or Pathfinder, things like that, where you make a character on a character sheet, and you have a game master who sort of like tells you about the world, asks you what do you do, and then you say what you do, and then the game master helps resolve it, and things like that, right? Pencil and paper on the table and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to make a fan-made Brawlhalla one. I was especially inspired by by Battle Pass 7, Valhalla Quest, which is a tabletop RPG themed battle pass. So I was especially inspired by that. But anyway, so an idea I had for character creation for this potential Brawlhalla TTRPG is that an important part of character creation would be choosing weapons for your character, because I want character creation to feel like you're actually creating a Brawlhalla character, whether it's actually for whether you want to like play as Bodvar or Cross, or maybe an OC or something, your own original character, that you feel like you're making or playing a character made for Brawlhalla. And the way I'm doing that is that I know that the developers of Brawlhalla, Blue Mammoth Games, they tend to create their characters based on either archetype, like core concepts such as witch or skeleton or Viking or cowgirl or whatever, or they start with a weapon pairing like sword, hammer, or Qatar's lance or something. I don't know, or a little bit of both. So. So that means that the weapons are going to be important for your character, what your character is going to be able to do. So I'm going to talk about what my ideas for these weapons, for each of the weapons that we have. So I thought it'd be kind of fun where when you choose a weapon, that you basically get a certain dice or pair of dice that goes with that weapon, or like a set of dice, and basically and these are like your two weapons. Whenever you attack with them, essentially. I thought that'd be kind of cool. You actually you have these dice set aside like for your actual weapons. So I'm going to go in alphabetical order here. So I was thinking for axe, you would use a D12 because axe is a heavier weapon and a D12 is one of the larger dice. Another thing about at least in this current form, I was thinking of having weapons have a bunch of things. Each weapon would have one or more dice associated with it that you would use. A weapon would also come with a little bit of a stat bonus as well. You have this stat bonus if you are proficient with the weapon. And there's also a range, so close range, which is melee, near range, which is like a few squares away on a grid map, or far range, which is like across the room or something like that. Close, near, or far, and then an ability for each weapon. And each character is going to have two weapons, so that means that they will have several stat bonuses tied to the weapon. Each weapon will have its own range, each weapon has its own dice, and each weapon will have its own ability that you can use. You can use either one of them. So for axe, D12, you would get +2 to strength. And by the way, right now I'm using Dungeons and Dragons attributes: strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, charisma. However, I'm considering changing those stats, but for now we're going to go with those 6 for the purposes of this video. D12 +2 strength, melee range, of course, close range, and the ability with the axe would be sweep, where basically you sort of like attack multiple foes in close range with one attack. For battle boots, I was thinking, and this is going to be a bit similar for the weapons that have like a pair of objects to it, but battle boots would be 2d6, +1 to dexterity, +1 to charisma, close range, and the ability would be combo kicks, where if you roll doubles, Like, let's say, for example, you roll your damage and you roll doubles, you get to roll again until you don't roll doubles. Up to a certain number of times. So like combo kicks, you keep attacking over and over again. Blasters will also be 2d6. One to dex, one to dexterity, plus one to dexterity, plus one to intelligence. Near range, so it's a little bit of range, but not too much. And then it would have multi-shot. Basically, with this one, it would be exploding sixes. So whenever you roll a 6, then you keep rolling that dice until you stop rolling a 6, and you total all of that together. So that's what's called an exploding 6. I thought that'd be cool for blasters. For bow, I'm doing D8. It gives 2 to wisdom, near range, and the ability is the arrow is you. You know, kind of how the bow recovery, like literally, like, you know, fires the opponent out of the bow. The idea is that if you're in close range with somebody in melee range, you basically would deal 2d4 damage to them, and then you would push them away. I might change that because that would basically mean you'd have to have extra dice that are not the 2d8. So I'm not 100% sure if I want to keep that or not, but that's something I was thinking about. For the cannon, I was thinking it'd be fun to have 3d6. One thing that I would like I'm trying to do is to have the dice themselves be kind of the similar shape to the weapon themselves. So if you have three six-sided dice next to each other, it can make sort of a shape of a cannon. The cannon would give +1 to strength and +1 to constitution. In both close, and it had both close and near range. The ability is blast or bludgeon. If you're in close range, you roll 3d6 for damage, but if you're in near range, you roll only 2d6. So if you're closer to somebody, then it's more risky, but you deal a little more damage, and you know, if you're farther away, you deal a little less damage, that kind of thing. For gauntlets, it would be 2d6, +1 to dexterity, +1 to constitution, close range, and it would have a grappling or like restraining ability, or basically like you're holding an enemy in place. For the grapple hammer, D12, because like the axe, the hammer is another slower, heavier weapon, +1 to strength, +1 to wisdom, close range. It would have the trip ability, basically knocking an enemy prone, like, you know, flat on their back, allowing attacks against that foe for the next turn, like making it easier to attack that foe for the next turn. Great sword, I was thinking could be a D10. +1 to strength, +1 to dexterity, close range, and I thought it'd be fun to have Greatsword have a chain ability, where if the damage you roll is 7 or higher for an attack, and this is a 10, this is right here is a 10, then you get to deal damage again until you roll lower than 7, up to a certain number of times. Katars would be 2d4, like this. +2 to dexterity, close range, and silent knives. So if the first attack that you make deals damage, then you get to attack one more time. So even though it has like the weakest amount of even though it has the weakest dice, you could attack multiple times because of how fast it is. Orb, that would be D8 once again. +1 to wisdom, +1 to charisma, close range. The ability I have in mind is called Magic Dance, where basically after you attack, you become harder to hit because you sort of like use the orb or like magic to like block stuff. The D8 seems perfect for this because of, you know, it's probably the most like orb-like. I think there are some orbs in Brawlhalla that have this kind of like diamond shape to it or gem shape to it, which I think would be kind of cool. Lance, yes. So I could do D12, or I was thinking a D6 and a D8. Because the lance is so big, you kind of think of like, you know, the back of the rocket part in the back and then the pointy part in the front. That's why I was thinking a D6 plus a D8. +1 to strength, +1 to charisma, close range, and the ability would be rocket lunge, which means that you move a far distance until you hit a wall or an obstacle or something, and then you deal damage to anyone who is in your way. The scythe, I need to work on the scythe one. I'm not 100% sure, but for right now, D8, +1 to wisdom, +1 to intelligence, close range. The ability is hook, which basically after you attack, you move your target to another space within close range of you, kind of like, swinging them around or something. Spear, yes. So I was thinking a D8 and a D4, because those are like the pointiest ones and stuff like that, right? +1 to dexterity, +1 to wisdom, close range, and the ability with the spear would be, I'm calling it keep away, where basically you're taking sort of like a defensive stance, and anyone who tries to get close to you, you deal 1d6. I have 1d6 damage. I should probably change it to like 1d4 damage so you don't have an extra dice or something. You deal 1d4 damage and push them away, kind of like the spear neutral air attack. It kind of like keeps people away, because spears are very good at not just attacking at a distance but also sort of like defending you. And then finally, the sword is a D8. The very, very basic, all around good weapon, +1 to any 2 different stats. Close range, and the ability would be Frenzy, which is basically you get to, if you reduce a foe to 0 hit points, you get to attack again. So those are the various ideas that I have currently for weapons in the Brawlhalla tabletop role-playing game that I am developing. This is very early on. It's very, very likely that this stuff is probably going to change, but I thought it'd be fun to sort of like share these ideas here. If any of you have any thoughts or ideas about it, I'm interested in hearing them. This game this TTRPG still is a long way in coming, but I do feel like I'm making some progress. But yeah, I just kind of felt sort of inspired by some other like tabletop role-playing games that focus on like the kind of dice that you use. And so like, if in this current system, if I were to create a character, if I were to play as my main Scarlet, then I would have Lance, which is this, a D6 plus a D8, and Hammer, which is a D12. And these would be my 2 weapons that I would use, essentially. I'm thinking of possibly still using a 20-sided dice for checks or rolling to hit or something like that. But for damage, these would be the dice for that. So I have these 2 weapons, and that's a fun concept. I like playing with like the physical objects of dice. But anyway, such are my thoughts. I thought it'd be fun to sort of like share them while I have these ideas as I'm sort of recording them and everything. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you're excited about the idea of a fan-made Brawlhalla tabletop role-playing game, what would you want? What would you want to be a part of it? Is there a certain like system or certain mechanics or certain moods or feelings that you would want to make sure is included? I'm interested to hear other people's thoughts. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, all the best.